Joining me now on the telephone is the author of a fascinating new book about really one of the most fascinating actors in show business. It's called Rage and Glory, The Volatile Life and Career of George C. Scott. We're joined by author David Sheward, who also is the executive editor of Backstage, the publication and theatrical industry up in New York, and he joined us from New York today. And David, thanks for being with us. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine.
Good to talk to you. How are things up in the great city? I grew up just outside of it.
Oh, it's very cold and snowy.
Still? Oh, you got to come down to Florida during the winter.
Yes.
Well, David, I just had a chance to get the book yesterday, and I've been reading through it before we had a chance to talk today, and I think we talked before, when we set up this interview. George C. Scott, really one of my favorite actors, growing up watching him on movies and television. And how did you get involved with this particular project to write about?
Well, Scott was always one of my favorite actors. He had an off-stage life, which was just as fascinating as his on-stage life. He was married 5 times to 4 different women. He rejected the Oscar for Patton. Twice he put his own money into a particular project and lost all of it. Once in a Broadway theater company that folded, and once in a film that he produced and directed and starred in, and lost almost all of his initial investment. And also the fact that there was no other book about his whole life out there. There are many books on stars like Betty Davis, Katharine Hepburn, Warren Beatty, but there wasn't one on George C. Scott.
He had a tough upbringing, being able to read about. I always thought he was born in Michigan, but he was actually born, as it says in your book, in Virginia. And
that's right.
By chance, I guess his father went to Michigan to get a job in the auto industry, right?
Yes, well, his father was he was a surveyor in the coal mines in Virginia, and during the Depression hit, and a lot of the coal mines closed, and a lot of, not just his dad, but a lot of people moved out of the rural South to the more industrial Midwest and North, and they moved to near Detroit, and his father got a job in on the assembly line in the tool crib in Detroit, and eventually worked his way up to be an executive with a manufacturing company. And so Scott's early life was very tough, and his father and his mother Scott's mother died when he was very young of peritonitis, of blood poisoning, and so he had a very tough, difficult upbringing.
I thought it was interesting how you recounted when he was, I think, 17 or 18, he had run away from home, and he joined the military. I guess he wanted to join the toughest part of the military, so he picked the Marines. He really wanted to go be part of World War II, didn't he?
Yes, he did run away when he was a teenager, but came home, and then after he graduated from high school is when he joined the Marines at 17, and he wanted to be in World War II and fight, but the atomic bomb was dropped, I think a month after he joined, and he had 2 years of stateside duty in Washington, D.C.
He hated that job too, didn't he?
Yeah, he was on the burial detail at Arlington. That was one of his duties, and he always said that depressing military duty of having to bury people 2 or 3 times a week got him started on a lifelong drinking habit.
And then he went to, on the GI Bill, he went to college to become a journalist, I believe, University of Missouri. So he was kind of going back and forth what he wanted to do at that point. I guess acting really wasn't in his mind at that particular point of his life, was it?
That's right. He went to the University of Missouri to study journalism, and he discovered about himself that he was just too shy. Journalists would need to ask. He just could not bring himself to do it. So he realized this was not the life for him, and he saw an audition notice for the college theatrical group to do a play by Terrence Rattigan called The Winslow Boy, and he tried out for the lead role and got it. And he